Let's try this again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Time for another brilliant lecture here at Sisseton Wahpeton College in Native American Literature for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. And without any further ado, the brilliant man himself, Professor Victor Singingeagle. Yay! All right, now, see, I got a new microphone. I hope this one works. It's notoriously cantankerous, so I had to keep double checking all my connections. Make sure everything's connecting and working right. My other one ran out of juice. I could have sworn I plugged this sucker in and recharged it. Never mind. When we last got cut off, we were discussing Pop Quiz B. And I said that most of my beloved students in Native Lit here at Sisseton Wahpeton College for the fall of 2025 have already taken A and B. I'm going to scroll up here. Sorry to waste your time, but I got to do this quick. Where's Pop Quiz A? Oh, there it is with the Hulk and Spider-Man. There's Pop Quiz A. Most of you guys took it. There's like 4 or 5 of you who didn't. It's still open. So if you haven't done it, there's still time. Jump on it. Spider-Man and the Hulk. Now we're all the way to Pop Quiz B. I believe only 2 people took it. But that's partially my fault because I forgot to change from spring 2025 to fall 2025, which I have just done a minute ago. So you can see here, anything that says spring 2025, a reminder, is out of date. I don't know if I said it already in my previous video, but I'm going to say it again because some people don't listen. That is, if you see a stop sign, stop! That means stop. That means all the stuff underneath it is out of date and needs to be updated. I see a couple of you have already taken the midterm with the bunny rabbits. That's from last semester. So I already made it invisible to students now. You guys can't see it anymore. But the 2 people who took this exam, you know who you are. I have a deal for you. You're still going to have to take the updated midterm. It's going to have some monsters like Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Pinhead. And they're all going to be sitting in the classroom taking an exam. When you see that, as soon as you see it pop up on eLearning, jump on it. However, if you took this exam and you take the new one, I will take the higher of the 2 scores and apply it as your midterm grade. How's that? That'll work. Works in your favor, doesn't it? All right, so let's get on the subject at hand. Remember, if you see this stop sign, all this stuff underneath, old. Don't bother with it. I got to update this stuff. We stop here with the Chumash Indians, which we will talk about in another lecture. Now, rather than belabor this issue, by the way, there's also Puisain Malek here, which Puise means poop. Puisain means poop of the. Malek means chicken, and I spelled Malek wrong. It's M-W-L-A-E-K, Malek. Oh, look, there's a cute girl wearing a ros. Mom's side of the family, that is. We are part Micronesians. That's miniature Samoans, pretty much. That's why we have this frizzy hair and big old noses. Never mind. Yeah, that's why I don't look like most natives, because I'm a weird mix. Now, let's get back to our subject at hand. We were discussing stuff discussed, weren't we? I sure hope this microphone's working. Otherwise, I'm going to be standing up here wasting a whole bunch of time. We already spoke for 4 minutes and 47 seconds. I'm going to make this video shorter than my previous one, which I bombed on big time because the microphone stopped working. Now, stuff discussed. Keep all of this stuff in mind for our midterm exam. We discussed what is literature, what does opening up the canons mean? What is native literature versus non-native literature and the issues that opens up. We also discussed, and we also even spoke with Laura Tohe and Professor Gary Hobson, this idea of indigenous aesthetics. What makes native literature stand out versus non-native, and also issues of authenticity. Let that simmer for a minute. We're going to talk about it some more in a second. What makes a good story? We also spoke on that. We even spoke on, well, I'll let that simmer as well. We got 2 pots on the back burners now. We also discussed Popol Vuh and the Hero Twins. The Hero Twins show up all over the Americas. What's going on with that? The Mayans and the Aztecs, I believe, call them Hunafu and Jabalenque. And our Algonquian people, we say Wena and Wishka. And I have forgotten what the Navajo called them. Creation stories of the earth. Creation of man, the real people. Why are we, the without furs, called the real people? How does coyote get involved in this? What's rabbit got to do with it? And coyote super glue. Ooh. Go back to eLearning and have a look. You'll see what I'm talking about. We talked about the generations and their themes. Each generations of native authors oftentimes embraced a specific theme. We got pedagogical resistance, for example. That'd probably be the earliest generation of writers, the first generation of famous native writers. The next one had to deal with survival. Maybe the next is rebirth. Another one, that'd be probably my generation, identity issues. And the newest generation, I believe, is talking about reconnection. Reconnection with Mother Earth and where do we go from here now that we've asserted ourselves and we figured out who we are and where we belong? How do we reconnect with Mother Earth and what do we do with this pop culture, dominant culture? How do we integrate it into our lives? We'll see a lot of that in the newest literature. We also discussed Sherry Ortner versus the late Professor Paula Gunn Allen, an old friend of mine, and pretty much all the people I talk about we all know each other, right? The etic perspective versus the emic perspective. What's the difference? And what these have to do with those, right? Of course. And then we had a whole bunch of stories on eLearning. Humans with soft heads. We used to have soft heads. How did our heads get hard? And what were the results of that? We also discussed the Mexican flag, the eagle perched on a cactus eating a snake, octopus lady, and crow. And how Raven stole the sun. There's the moon maiden, and the rabbits in the moon, and the hero twins, and this idea of diffusion versus independent invention. What's that about? Quickly. Diffusion, this idea that a lot of art and oral tradition and written stories appear both in Asia and in the Americas. The question is, was it through trade and word of mouth and interaction with ancient peoples? Or was it that these people completely invented this stuff, came up with this idea, there's a rabbit in the moon, there's a woman on the moon, they're all all that stuff, all independent of each other? That's your decision, or maybe a combination of both could be. Chief of the birds. Why is it that hummingbird is the chief of the birds and not eagle? Father's love stone. Why do we say father's love stone and not devil's tower? No, focus. Coyote, Black Creator, and the Stars. That's up on eLearning. Hussein Malik, which we talked about before. Also, there's a video talking about art for art's sake versus artistic urgency. That's on eLearning. What's that all about? Quickly, Art for art's sake probably originated in 17th, 18th century France. This idea, ooh, look at me, I'm so talented and cute. Let's see how I can delight everybody with my great art, my great writing. Yeah, cute. Versus artistic urgency that says we have no business writing and creating art and poetry, literature, unless we have a point to it. Make somebody feel something, do something, believe something. Then we have Inscott Momaday and the Native American Renaissance. What's that about? Sherman Alexie and Tiffany Midge, two great Native humorists, my contemporaries, my generation. Gary Hobson, his aesthetics, which we talked about a second ago, residential schools and Indian boarding schools, how do they show up in our literature, which they frequently do. We've got Freytag's Pyramid and Campbell's Circle, which I talked about before. It's on eLearning. Where is it? Show ya. There's Campbell's Circle. And there's Freytag's Pyramid. Ooh, I'm not as dumb as I thought I was. Let's keep going. Natives in the military. Pretty much a lot of these guys, Laura Tohey, Gary Hobson, and others discuss in their literature and in their speaking interviews with me, natives in the military. I told you before that we natives are 5 times more likely than any other ethnic group to join the military and serve our countries with honor. Wrong hand, your right hand. Probably a terrible salute. There we go. All right, focus. Then the last one, which we're gonna save. This is gonna be the last part of our midterm, or the last topic that we're gonna discuss before midterms, is the Chumash, the concept of adaptation, urbanization of Indians and rural Indian. What's all going on with all that? Well, I'll give you a quick heads up about this, because we might have spoken about it, but it does bear repeating. Well, as you know, there are such a thing called micro-reses or micro-reservations. In California, the West Coast, we call them rancherias. What's that all about? Well, you see, when the Spaniards were coming up from Mexico and bringing their conquistadores and their priests, and they're building their missions on the West Coast, they pretty much enslaved and wiped out the Indians until there's like 50 left in one tribe and 40 left in another tribe, maybe 80 over there. And each of these tribes used to be great, mighty nations, and they were reduced down to just a handful of people. And these handfuls of people decided to regroup, and Americans, the Washichu, the Chmokmanuk, were saying, you guys are nothing but Mexicans. And they, no, we're not. We're natives. We've been here for thousands of years. And so they petitioned the government to give them back some land, or maybe they bought some land and they petitioned the government, let's make this federal, and they rebuilt their reservations. Like I said before, some of these reservations are about the size of our college campus. Dinky, itty bitty. But they're still Indians, nevertheless. Gary Hobson and I had a quick discussion on this. We said that, like, for example, I hate to say me, I all the time, but keep in mind, this is true for a lot of natives. They get urbanized. They leave the res. This is back during the time what they used to call termination era. Leave the res, and even before termination era, run to the city, get jobs, and pass for anything other than Indian. There are several reasons why we do this. Our ancestors did this. One reason that automatically comes to mind is this idea that non-natives would come to the reses and take Indian babies and move them off to boarding schools, or worse, adopt them out to non-native families. Declare the parents incompetent, backwards. Therefore, the government has the right to take your children away and give them to non-Indians and raise them as white kids. How do you like that? Well, How you like them apples? Raise them as apples, red on the outside, white on the inside. Well, a lot of natives said, F that, we're moving to the city. We're going to get jobs and we're going to pretend we're not natives. And of course, the result of that is the government says, okay, you're not Indians anymore. And suddenly, now we're in the modern times, we got all these urban Indians, even some that live out in the rural countryside that are not federally recognized. This shows up in our literature too, more and more, especially with the new generations of native writers. And some of them are starting to buy land and establish themselves and form, what do they call it, 401Cs, I don't remember what it's called, 50-something-C organizations, and go to the government and say, hey, see, we are a corporate, we're a non-profit organization, and eventually work their way to federal recognition. Maybe they'll start at state level and work their way up to the federal level, by the way. This has happened again and again with native groups. There are 3 of them I can think of right now. I'm going to call them the Black Indians of the East Coast. Group number 1, the Mashantucket Pequots. You guys remember that? This is way back in the 90s, maybe before you guys were born. Mashantucket Pequots are Black Indians, African Americans and Indians. You see, when the Chmokmanuk came along and they were slaughtering all the Indians and everybody left was all related, so like, man, what are we going to do now? Some of them bought slaves and married them, or some of them, like Luke Skywalker's grandmother, Shmi Skywalker was her name, I think. Never mind. Or some of them just saw some escaped slaves and adopted them into the tribe, and they got new people, and they intermarried. That's true with the Mashantucket Pequot. And for a long time, they were not federally recognized. They were only state recognized as Indians. And they got their federal recognition, and they built a casino. Now they're the richest tribe in the country. By the way, on the side, of course, this made a certain orange person very angry. And he said, they don't look like Indians to me. Never mind, I'm not going to get into politics. But a lot of us natives, we do not like that dude. But we're going to stay focused. That's the Mashantucket Pequot. The other one is the Mashpee tribe, and the other one is the Lumbee. There's another tribe down in Florida called Seminole as well. A lot of those guys are Black Indians. Again, why? Because they were killed off and the numbers were so few that they adopted Black people into their escaped slaves or freed slaves or whatever into their tribes and intermarried. That's why they don't look like Indians to me. Or in my case, miniature Samoan on mom's side, otherwise known as Micronesians. That's why I got the big nose and the frizzy hair, like I said before. Now, so that, again, shows up in our literature. So keep that in mind as we read, which brings me to your homework. As soon as you see it, jump on it. That's the midterm with the horror villains in it. As soon as you see it, jump on it and don't be lazy. Like I said before, and I'm not sure because the previous video cut off, the microphone stopped working. You will see that in all of my videos, I put MLA citation, APA citation. What's going on with that? I'm showing you, I'm giving you hints, because the difference between getting an A and a B and a C, again, see, just regurgitate a bunch of facts that your teacher told you. Get your nice C, and you can move on to your real major, whatever it is you want to do. Now, if you want a B, put your opinions, especially in the written section. That's your time to shine. Do not be lazy and give me 1 sentence answers. Give me 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. what do you think about this idea of Native Americans in the joining the military, and how does it show up in literature?
Don't just say, well, yeah, it's true. I see it. And even in my own family. And I'm done.
That's a nice C answer. But if you put some more of your opinions and say, oh yeah, you see here, Professor Gary Hobson says in his interview with Professor Singingeagle, blah, 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 and it shows up in Laura Tohe's literature when she writes about code talkers, yada, yada, boom, then give me some citations where you got that information from. Bingo, ding, 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 ding. There's your A. Now, I'll stand up here, and yak too much. Last but not least, continue on good answers and Why Indigenous Literatures Matter, page 113. Continue reading that. How do we become good ancestors? It's important for us. And last but not least, Aunt Parnetta's Electric Blisters. Read, listen, tell, page 136. Here's a picture of Diane Glancy, by the way. I believe she's Cherokee. She's the author of Aunt Parnetta's Electric Blisters. That's all for now. Again, I thank you very much for your kind attention. And you guys have an awesome rest of the week and happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.